Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of this past Sunday's episode of The Walking Dead on AMC, which is episode 5 of season 8 called The Big Scary You. And happy Thanksgiving, guys. Hope it's been a good one for you. Hope you're not knocked out too soon yet. So I know this review is kind of late. But I work Sunday, then other shows to catch up on, and I also watch this with my father as well, so it got a little bit pushed back, but I'm really glad I decided to still do a video to talk about this one, because this episode I think is definitely one of the best of the season. Maybe the best of the season. It's between this one and the one last week, the Ezekiel Center episode. I think season 8 overall has been pretty good so far. I think it's been better than season 7, and I also think I like it more than season 6, and maybe season 5. I'd have to go back on 5 again, but it just feels like a more well-rounded season to me so far. And I didn't hate season 7 either. I liked it more than a lot of people did, but I also got my Walking Dead shirt on today, of course. Back when the barn burned down, which is great. The Big Scary You. We finally got to check in with Negan and the rest of the Saviors again, since the premiere. They waited a while for us to see Negan and the President again, but in this one we see sort of that meeting that was being held before Rick and the others attacked him in the premiere, so I thought that was pretty good, with Gregory trying to speak to him and everything. And an episode like this, why I liked it as much as I did, is because this kind of episode and what they did with Negan in this episode is one of the many reasons, but one of the core reasons why I got so into The Walking Dead in the first place, seasons and seasons ago now. And that's the characters. Negan, I think, is a really, pretty fleshed out antagonist at this point. Still waiting for that Negan flashback episode, which I think would be completely warranted. And if you read the comics, Negan's backstory at this point, at least for the most part. But nonetheless, still hearing Negan talk about it and the exchanges that he and Father Gabriel had while they were trapped, I just thought it was really, really good. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan did an excellent job. He talked about what happened with his wife and everything. Really makes Negan feel like a real character and not just like a comic book over the top villain kind of thing. Thanks to and I'm aware of Negan's backstory, by the way, but I still is excited to see, or at least start hearing about some of it on screen. And with this, it really makes Negan, I think, one of the best characters of the series. Rick or Shane are probably still my favorites. But this puts him right up there, I'm on that top few, I think, no question about it. I might even like Negan more than Daryl at this point, honestly, I'm not sure. But yeah, so Negan was definitely the highlight of the episode, and again, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's acting was really, really good. He's one of my favorite actors, I'm glad he got to portray that deeper, psychological side to Negan in this one, where he explains that, he screwed around on his wife and she was sick, and I like the emotion actually showing off of Negan there, and then the way Negan actually, tried to do what he could for both himself and Gabriel, showing that he's not, he's not the most far gone character we've seen in the series, I guess, but he has his, he has his issues for sure. But when you think about a lot of Negan's points here, both in the meeting scene and just when he's talking to Father Gabriel, he's not completely wrong a lot of the time either. And in some cases, he's almost better, or at least not completely wrong even against Rick or something, Of course, certain ways he runs certain parts of the Saviors isn't completely correct. I'm not saying that. But you see someone like Daryl in this episode who is, hell-bent on, getting into the sanctuary, making sure they're all dead, no matter if, there's casualties or, like collateral damage or not for people who don't deserve it. But meanwhile, you hear Negan in this episode saying, he doesn't want Simon to, just slaughter all these people if it has to come to that. He doesn't want that. People are a resource, which is true. But it definitely shows a different perspective that Negan has compared to someone like the governor or Daryl at this point. And Daryl's perspective is understandable as well with everything he's been through, of course, too. But still, I think it's interesting, and I'm glad it made me feel like, shades of gray, instead of it being like so black and white. And I love the governor, by the way, in season 3 and 4. David Morrissey, really still, I don't know, it's hard to say who I think is a better antagonist at this point, with them starting to flesh out Negan more. I think Negan will probably become greater, but the governor still definitely has his place on the show. But he was, like I said, I think he was almost too far gone. He was too far gone, but more so than Negan is at this point. I think there's more redeemable value in Negan somehow. But still, two very good kinds of villains. And then he also had Rick and Daryl in this episode. Again, I talked a little bit about it already, but disagreeing over the potential collateral damage with the plan of using the dynamite to get more walkers into the sanctuary. And they actually get into a bit of an altercation. Rick gets the dynamite away from them, so Rick kind of wins the exchange, but Daryl puts him in an illegal chokehold. But of course, when it's about to go off, Daryl actually helps Rick up and gets him out of the way too. So they weren't trying to kill each other, obviously, but still. That part's fairly good. And then I do like when Negan uses the guts trick, and Trev's Chan too. I watch him a lot. He's definitely one of my favorite YouTubers, big inspiration. But he was kind of questioning whether Negan should have known about the guts trick or not, I guess. I don't think it's that it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. It's at least a couple of years since the apocalypse now, or more, depending on how you want to think of it. So I think with as many saviors as Negan has had, and as as many people as he's had in his group and his own experiences, I don't think it would be that big of a, or that surprising of a thing to figure out at some point. So I'm sure they picked it up at some point along the way. So Negan uses the guts trick, and they manage to get out of the little, house. It's not really a house. It's, well, I guess, the little building there. And I like seeing Negan using, of course, Lucille on some of the walkers. And Negan even, runs and, picks up one and slams it against something to get him out of the way of Father Gabriel and to get through the, the horde and everything. So I thought that was actually a pretty good sequence. But we see at the end of the episode that Father Gabriel seems pretty ill. Now, we didn't really see this have an effect on people before when they did the guts thing, except maybe vomiting when they're cutting the walker up. But I guess it's due to the blood that actually got to Gabriel's system, which is, it should be understandable. That should happen. I don't think he was bitten or anything. I think we would have seen the bite mark at the end of the episode if that was the case. Still, nonetheless, I like that sequence a lot. And of course, them trying to find the rat, among the saviors while they all think Negan's dead. We know it's Dwight, and of course, Eugene has some idea of that now too. But Simon's trying to lead the charge, and the people are getting all riled up, the workers. And again, it shows a different perspective on Negan, because when Negan does return with Father Gabriel, he hears, whistle, of course, which is great. There's this woman that yells, thank God for you, Negan, or something like that. So even knowing the way Negan does things, there's still people that genuinely appreciate what he's done, and is willing to keep going with it, even looks up to him like that in a certain way. I know it's probably they feel like they have to say it too, but I think there's people who look to Negan more than they would look to the governor, who is just almost completely driven by fear once his masquerade was pulled out and everything. So again, interesting. So this is a good episode. Like I said, I think this week's along with last week's Some Guy, whole Shiva and Ezekiel thing, I think are definitely the best of the season. And it's really setting the season up nicely, I think. I really hope they keep Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Negan as long as possible, at least as long as the comics have been. So, yeah. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe. Giving this episode about a 9.2, 9.3 out of 10. Almost willing to bump it up to a 9.4. I don't know, but it's so high because, again, what they're doing with Negan, that's just the thing I love about The Walking Dead. Characters like, Shane, Negan, and everything that make the show go round. So, yeah, peace.